This is Michael Popok, Legal AF, where we love Judge Chutkan, the D.C. Circuit Court judge, presiding over Donald Trump's criminal case brought by Jack Smith. Will Judge Chutkan, in order to punish Donald Trump, gag him, preventing him from attacking jurors, prosecutors, their family, and judges in a new gag order? That's up for grabs. It's fully briefed, and she's about to make her ruling. Or will she speed the trial up, which she's threatened to do in the past for bad behavior by Donald Trump? Instead of March of 2024, how about January of 2024? All of these things are on the table, and we discussed them on the most recent episode of Legal AF with my co-anchor, Karen Friedman Agnifilo. Take a listen. And thank you, Judge Chutkan, because as we were about to break for the commercial, she very kindly waited for us to be on break to break new news. We have breaking news, folks, and it's great. Judge Chutkan has rejected and denied completely Donald Trump's efforts to recuse or disqualify her from presiding over his case. We literally just got it. I think when one of us is talking, the other one will read it. But we can give you the last line, and then we can backfill during this episode. For the reasons that she states in her 20-page opinion, the defendant's motion for recusal of the district judge, meaning her, is hereby denied, and that is it. You can try to take an appeal, but it's almost never successful. They are the first arbiter of their own ethics, if you will, at the trial judge level, and we have a very, as we said earlier today, we've got examples in this Legal AF of judges who are on the ball, who run a disciplined courtroom, who have disciplined minds, well-trained, and it runs the gamut from new judges to a judge that's been on the bench for 15 years, Judge Chutkan. And what we're seeing when that happens, we see justice. We see intellectual integrity and decision making, and we can like take a little bit of a sigh of relief. And I think that's the best feeling for me, that we've got an adult in charge who has the best interests of the administration of justice in mind. I know that Trump spends all of his time, railing about out of control Marxists, leftists, judges who are out to get him and aren't looking at the law or the facts, but the opposite is true. When you use examples like Judge McAfee so far and Judge Chutkan, we should be proud of the work that they do and the decisions that they make. And this one is another one of them. So I'll frame what I was going to start with Judge Chutkan, and then by the time we're done, one of us or both of us will have learned enough about some bone molts, some amazing phrases that I'm sure are buried within Judge Chutkan's order, and we will bring them to you. Let's start with what we thought we were going to talk about off the break, which is Judge Chutkan deciding also, and we can tie things together here. She already said to Trump, this is my phrase, not hers, "Go F yourself. I'm not going anywhere. I'm presiding over this case, and I'm going to be ruling on all the motions in front of me, including the motion for a limited gag order." We call it a gag order, but Jack Smith didn't call it that. A limiting order on what Donald Trump can do and say that goes beyond the pale of his First Amendment rights, trying to balance that against the proper administration of justice. And particularly, Jack Smith in his filing said, you gotta make him stop, Judge, attacking witnesses, prosecutors, and polluting the future jury pool, the jury veneer, because we'll never be able to get a fair and impartial jury. Not for what Donald Trump said in his papers. He has it actually 180 degrees ass backwards. He says, well, what are they trying to argue? That the more Donald Trump talks, the more we're going to convert a DC jury into a Trump jury that's 95% Democrat? No, that's not the argument. The argument is the same as Fani Willis makes in Georgia. It's that we won't be able to get a fair and impartial jury for the accused, for Donald Trump. It's not that we're worried that he's making Trump jurors. It's that the justice system, represented by the Department of Justice, it's in their name, is worried that we won't be able to get an impartial jury that already doesn't have its mind made up to like hate and or be scared of Donald Trump in order to render a proper opinion, a proper decision, verdict under the Sixth Amendment and due process. That's the fear. course, they make it into a straw man in Trump's legal papers in order to destroy it. We don't think you could ever convert DC people into Trumpers. Well, that's not the argument at all. That's not the constitutional argument that's been raised by the Department of Justice. And so, although Jack Smith's papers did not put in there and also make him stop attacking you, Judge, we know he's attacked Judge Chutkan, Judge Engoron, Judge Middlebrooks in Florida, every judge he doesn't like. Silence for Judge Cannon in the Mar-a-Lago case, never attacks her, always lauds her. Silence. He hasn't attacked McAfee yet. He will. The judge up in Georgia, and Judge Merchan in presiding over the Stormy Daniels criminal case that we don't talk about much because things are sort of moving along towards a trial date there that may be reset up in New York. So she's got two things she can do. She can grant some version of what the federal government is asking for, which is to make him stop attacking witnesses, jurors, and prosecutors in social media. He can do everything else he wants. That's one. Through himself or through his proxies. And the second thing she can do is say, I warned you once in my courtroom that your First Amendment rights are cabined, limited by the fair administration of justice. You don't get to say anything that you want because you're claiming First Amendment rights, because there's a broader public policy here of a proper trial administration, and I'm not going to let you overcome that. And she said, if I find that he can't comply with orders and be civil, so to speak, in a criminal case, I may just speed up the trial. Now, she set the trial pretty quick, we thought, in March. But there are a number of months between basically what's now the 1st of October and March. January comes to mind. Could she, Karen, based on the hearing, say, I'm going to enter some sort of order, but I'm going to do it one better. I don't like what I'm watching. I don't like what I'm seeing. I don't like the attacks to hang and kill General Mark Milley, who's going to be a witness, we know, in the Jan 6 case. His attacks on prosecutors and doxing them. Fani Willis talks about it in Georgia as well. Racial violent assassination efforts. Judge Chutkan got an assassination threat to her chambers. And she could say, I think I'm going to do two things. I want to hear what your opinion is. Do you think Judge Chutkan is going to move this trial to something like January to also punish, if you will, or try to modify the behavior of an out-of-control Donald Trump?
No, I don't think she will. I don't think she can. She has to be just as careful about punishing him by essentially what would be considered violating his due process rights, right? He has a right to prepare for his trial, and you can't just rush it to punish him where he would say, I need more time. It's already going fairly quickly. And so I don't think she can do that in the same way that I think she has to be very careful in issuing any sort of gag order, because not only is he a candidate for president, many of the witnesses, or at least one of the witnesses, Mike Pence in the case, he's a witness in the Jan 6 case. He is going out and talking about Donald Trump and in his running for office, and Trump, has an argument that he should be able to respond. Certainly that's what he says. And I just think the First Amendment here is really tricky given the fact that everybody's running for president and, we're in the middle of an election. So, look, I just think, I don't think she's going to issue a gag order. I think she'll issue another very stern warning. She might say, look, you can't, I'm ordering you not to threaten or intimidate witnesses. In some ways, I guess, it could be not really a gag order, but an order of what he can and cannot do. Although she already has done that. I don't think she's going to do much more than that. I mean, I don't think they're going to move the trial quicker, because that violates another amendment, not just
comment. Sorry, I don't mean that. So I don't disagree with you, although we'll have to see what she's going to do. Comment on what they're seeking in the gag order, and what you think the judge and if you want to comment on the briefing related to Donald Trump saying my First Amendment rights I'm running for office and you got to let me talk. And Joe Biden's trying to shut me down. Why don't you comment a little bit on that, and then we'll get prepared for the bombshell for today, which is Chutkan said,
I read it while you were talking.
Yeah, and I'll read it now. Then we can talk about it. Go ahead. Why don't you talk about this part, and then we'll go back to it.
Yeah, just that the argument here is Trump said, look, Jack Smith, you filed a speaking indictment and you had a press conference and you made incendiary attacks on the president, saying he fueled an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy. And this was inflammatory rhetoric, and it poisons the Trump defense, and it poisons the jury pool against Trump. And the jury pool is already, very much a pro-Biden, 95% pro-Biden. And so you're saying that I'm the one who's potentially going to poison the jury pool. You're the one who's poisoning the jury pool, Jack Smith, and so therefore I have to have a right to respond to this. And then, of course, he talks about the First Amendment, and he says Joe Biden knows he was losing against Trump, and so he brought these cases as a political pretext, which is ridiculous. You could argue that Trump actually ran for office in order to prevent these cases. These investigations were going before he declared, and so if anyone was using was trying to manipulate the criminal justice system and et cetera, it's Trump, not Merrick Garland, by way of appointing a special counsel, Jack Smith, that has literally nothing to do with Joe Biden. But anyway, so he complains and says, now you're trying to muzzle me. And, Smith has not identified a single potential juror who's been prejudiced, and why can witnesses like Pence attack me, but I can't respond, on and on and on. So he just basically says you can't do a prior restraint / gag order, and talks about how, this doesn't meet the strict standard, the strict scrutiny standard that would be required to pass muster, to infringe on someone's First Amendment rights. So, and he also says, look, my posts don't endanger anyone, and all this kind of stuff, all the things you would expect him to say. But, I think here I do think, although his arguments are a little bit suspect, I do think that the judge has to be very, very careful and tread very carefully here. Look, though, Donald Trump has walked that line, and he certainly has walked a very fine line. More than the funny thing is, I think it's dangerous to put a gag order on him. And I think it's dangerous because he's running for president. And I think it's dangerous to violate his due process rights in order to speed this up. What I don't think is a problem is putting him in, put him in jail, which is what you would do to any other defendant who would threaten judges and threaten prosecutors and threaten witnesses and behave in the way he's behaving. But Nobody but me seems to like that as an option, but that's what happens in the normal course.
Well, you see, we have a little bit of a debate, Karen and me. That breaks out often on Legal AF in a good way, healthy way, dignified way. She's got her prosecutor perspective. I've got my lifetime of being a defense lawyer perspective about whether that trial of Donald Trump's going to get moved up. We'll find out who's right or who's wrong, and we'll follow it in one place. Legal AF only, exclusively on the MeidasTouch network. Help them get to 2 million free subscribers. It helps. Bigger the network is, the more your voice is heard. Follow me, Michael Popok, on hot takes just like this one, and on Legal AF, the leading podcast devoted to law and politics, on Wednesdays and Saturdays right here on the MeidasTouch network and everywhere you get your audio podcast from. Until the next hot take, until the next Legal AF episode, this is Michael Popok reporting.
Hey, Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.